things at work have gone really, really well, I mean really well, and you've climbed so far up the corporate ladder the air's getting thin, then you might, just might, be getting your hands on the keys to one of these. It's pretty much at the top of the tree, the BMW 7 Series, chariot of the chosen few, and it has been entirely renewed, though it will still take up at least 4 directors' spaces in the company car park. This entire class of car is unlike anything else, and it's ridiculous really, a great big slab of automotive excess. I mean, is any big cheese really so big that they need a car on this scale? But for status, nothing can beat a seriously huge car. And when it comes to big executive motors, BMW wrote the rulebook. Which makes the new 7 Series all the more important to them. Don't forget, it's from up here at the highest echelons of luxury executive cardom that their whole prestige image cascades right the way down to the humble 3 Series. In other words, cock up the 7 Series and you've cocked up the entire range. No pressure. They've certainly not been shy about changing the image of their flagship. Their chief designer, Chris Bangle, penned the shape. And whilst definitely a BMW, it does look strangely a bit French. Of course, one of the problems with packing a car full of technology like this is it does tend to attract too many knobs. The car ends up stuffed full of them, the dash lights up like an oil rig and you're afraid to turn the radio on in case you launch a missile by accident. And this is where BMW have got a bit clever, because they've introduced the controller. And from here I can control things like the climate control, the air conditioning, entertainment, communication, my telephone. Eventually I'll have internet access from here as well. It's all very clever, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. Usually you climb into a new car, it takes a couple of seconds to familiarise yourself. Not so the new 7 Series. Things are a little bit different. For a start, the key isn't exactly run-of-the-mill, and they've followed the new fad for a push-button starter rather than a turn key. Then once you've dealt with that, there are things like no gear lever. It's actually up here behind the steering wheel. There's a choice of engines, massive or totally ruddy enormous. One is the 3.6 litre 272 bhp V8 and the other a 4.5 litre nearly 333 bhp V8. Oddly enough, there's no 3-cylinder diesel option. Funny that. But later in the year there will be a long wheelbase 6 litre V12 version. Subtle. People don't buy BMWs, even ones this big, and expect them to drive like an old skip lorry. And they won't be disappointed, because this most certainly doesn't. Despite it being enormous, then it is very, very big. It drives extremely well. It feels totally planted and secure. There's a huge amount of grip. It can well handle the enormous power of even the bigger engines. I'm not saying it's a sports car, but it ain't no big, wallowy, saggy luxury car either. Of course, the 7 Series has always been a car for covering colossal mileages in. And that means you've got to have not just comfort, but plenty to keep you occupied. And boy, have you. 60,000 miles later, you'll still be discovering stuff. For instance, as I talk to you now, I'm having my bottom massaged. I am. It's great. It's in the seat. But I like it. Okay, now I'm about to say something you don't often hear on telly, all right? You might as well do something else for the next 30 seconds. Put the kettle on, have a beer, anything. Because I'm about to talk about something completely irrelevant. Prices. The company fleet director would have to part with anything from just under £53,000 to just under £57,000 to stick one of these in your slot in the car park. By offering clever finance packages that include 75,000 miles of maintenance and servicing that can then be passed on to the next owner of the car second-hand, BMW hope to stop it plummeting in value quicker than a piano off a tower block. But hey, if you are counting the pennies, you might want to consider shopping elsewhere. But it's not because of these looks that the new 7 Series is going to meet some resistance. It's because of this. I certainly wouldn't want to be the one trying to explain to Mr. Corporate Big Cheese how the thing works. That said, once you've got to grips with these controls, and it's not that difficult, it doesn't take that long. It is a very big, very, very clever BMW. And for many people, that's just what the doctor ordered.
With summer fast approaching, a young man's fancy turns to, well, a number of things, but one of those is probably a 2-seater roadster. Top down, wind through the hair, enjoying the great British summer, which also means a car that doesn't let the rain in. So in the affordable convertible sector, what do you go for? Perhaps the brilliant Mazda MX-5, the car that started the trend off again in the late 1980s. Or maybe the BMW Z3, bit pricey maybe, but good all the same. Or you could be all patriotic and buy one of these, an MGF. Yes, I know you're already thinking that a glorified Rover might not be the best choice. Build quality, reliability, problems with those early cars. I know, I've heard it all before. But in terms of value for money, an MGF might be the best choice for you. Now, although the MG badge carries a lot of weight amongst the older generation drivers amongst us, for the younger ones, me included, sort of, it doesn't mean an awful lot, to be perfectly honest. I'd rather be seen in a BMW Z3 or a Mazda MX-5. It's all about that snob appeal thing. And also the MG loses money quicker than its rivals, chiefly the BMW. So a car like this with 27,000 miles on the clock, which cost new 2.5 years ago over 20 grand, could now be yours for as little as 9.5. A lot of MGFs tend to be second cars or ones used every now and then, so very few have big mileages on. Most tend to have done 15 to 20,000 miles. The cheapest car we saw was an early N-Reg 1.8, 50,000 miles on sale privately for just under 7 grand. An R-Reg 45,000 mile example for under £9,000 at a car supermarket, or a V-Reg VVC for 11.5 grand. Whatever, you'll certainly pay a lot less than you would for a Z3. Although the quality of the MGF may not be up there with some of its rivals, it is a cheap car to run. Insurance is low at just Group 12. It's economical too, averaging early 30s to the gallon. With front-wheel drive and a mid-engine, the MGF is safe and secure. Gripes about this car? Well, the lack of room inside the cabin and the closeness of the pedals for the driver. Sometimes you can get your feet all tangled up. But I reckon for just over 9.5 grand for an S-Reg car, this is a bargain. With summer on the way, why not invest your cash in a used MGF? That's this week's One Careful Owner.
More news from the 2002 Detroit show now, and when we all saw this toy radio-controlled car being chased by a load of kids, we knew something weird was going to be revealed. Believe it or not, the Ford Motor Company have actually joined forces with the Tonka Truck Toy Company. This is a concept, but Ford say that the look of the F-Series trucks, which are the best-selling vehicles in America, will look very much like this in the future. What do you think? Judge Dredd or Judge Jules? Is this a Toy Story that'll have a happy ending? One thing's for certain, the power plant's sorted thanks to Welsh wizard Richard Parry Jones.
And this is a powerful engine. This is our new concept diesel, the Powerstroke Super 600. This 6-litre engine can turn out 350 horsepower and 600 pounds-feet of torque, a new benchmark for specific torque for heavy-duty diesel engines that are designed for rugged longevity that commercial users demand.
And here's another bit of technology. The new Ford F-Series trucks will use the hydraulic launch assist system to improve fuel economy in the city. At, say, a red light, the HLA system, as it's called, recovers energy that's normally lost during braking. It then stores it as hydraulic pressure and then reuses it at launch. Clever, eh? Almost like the unlimited energy of kids themselves. And now more news on the stunning concepts unveiled at the 2002 Detroit Motor Show. Inspired by the Le Mans winning GT40s of the 1960s, the 2002 GT40 concept measures about 2 feet longer than the cars which swept at Le Mans. This new concept is powered by a 500 brake horsepower supercharged V8 that would make its ancestors proud.
In an era of art school concept cars with wheels at the corners, the GT40, it hammers home its point with an impossibly long front overhang, voluptuous shapes, and the romantic ideal of handcrafted cars with national paint schemes.
No, we didn't understand what he meant there either. We got the next bit though.
Raise the canopy, and you'll find a supercharged, all-American 5.4-liter V8 with an aluminum 4-valve head.
The original GT40 in the 60s was a stunning success for Ford, especially as they originally wanted to partner with Ferrari. After negotiations collapsed, Ford resolved to do it on their own, and they won the 24-hour Le Mans in 1966, 67, 68 and 1969. Here at the Detroit show, Ford wheeled out some of the original key players from the GT40's heyday in the 1960s, who all said how much they loved the new concept. Well, they would, wouldn't they?
You're wondering why I'm standing thigh-high in a Scottish river. The answer is simple. I'm come to do a little bit of slalom. I haven't got a canoe, I've gone one step better. I've got a 60,000-pound giant slalom. It is the all-new Range Rover, the vehicle that takes you to places others can't. Let's see if it can. Only in a Range Rover, wading through 3 foot of water like a hippo in mud. Has to be mad in a 60,000-pound limo, but I tell you what, makes you proud to be British. The amazing thing about the Range Rover is how easy it is to drive off-road. Even if you're going down the side of a mountain, wallowing through 2 foot of mud, or crossing a river. Most of the time all you need to do is steer, and the Range Rover seems to do the rest, thanks to its incredible technology. This has to be one of the most sophisticated machines in the world. It glides almost regally across surfaces that would have most of the opposition stranded up to the axles, and it just sort of has an invincible feel about it. Money's been no object in the making of this Range Rover. Between them, BMW and Ford have invested a whacking great £1 billion, and that's a lot for any car. This is a car built with no compromises. It's also a vehicle built to last. It's only the 3rd Range Rover in the last 31 years, so this car will be around for a long time to come. Now this has to be the perfect setting for the new Range Rover, Skibo Castle, the place where Madonna had her wedding reception and she used a fleet of Range Rovers. But I've got one over Madonna, of course, because she didn't have this one. It may be instantly recognizable as a Range Rover, but believe me, everything about this car is brand new, and there are some fantastic design touches to it. It's subtle, but they are beautiful. Like these twin headlights, the much bigger grille. And let me show you some more of the things that make this a very special car. This has to be one of my favorite pieces, these amazing gills that give it a real dynamic sporting edge that break the side up superbly. And then of course there's the rear. And I love the simplicity of the rear. It's got more curvy now, it flows a lot better than the old vehicle. And I love this touch here of the rear tail lights, which have shades of the original Defender. But basically for me, whatever angle you look at this car, it's got that special on-road presence that makes you want to own this car. I think it's time to have a look and see what they've done on the inside now. Amazingly, they started designing this car from here, from the seat, because they reckon that the seating position is so important to the Range Rover, that had to be just right. They call it command because of the view. I call it like sitting on my own little throne. Because the rest of it is very much like a motorised stately home, with all of the leather and wood trimmings you would expect, but a whole lot of other little extras you've never ever seen before. Buyers of the new Range Rover will be literally spoilt for choice. There's over 100 different trim options, so it'll be a bit like going and ordering a suit. You can have exactly what you want on the inside. The interior has a bit of a nautical feel about it, which is hardly surprising really, because the Range Rover designers were inspired by boat craftsmanship. There are BMW influences all over this car, not least the two stunning new engines, a 3-litre turbo diesel and a 4.4-litre V8 petrol. The prices are a pleasant surprise as well. Well, they are if you're pretty rich. The entry-level 3-litre diesel is $42,995, the same price as the original model, which makes it a luxury bargain. The 4.4 V8 starts at $49,995 and goes up to $60,000 for the flagship Vogue. One man has been critical to the Range Rover product over the whole 4 years of its development. That man is Dr. Wolfgang Reitzler, chairman of PAG, who own Land Rover. Dr. Reitzler, what do you think you've achieved with this new Range Rover?
Well, when we started the development of this product, the clear target was to do the ultimate luxury off-road product, nothing else. And that has to be when you want to do a successor of a Range Rover, and that means to combine the capability of the best off-road car and come as close as possible to the capability of the best luxury saloon. Nothing else was the development target.
There's been no expense spared with this car, has it? Because I can remember
true.
you saying £1 billion the development had cost. It really is a car that has not sort of lacked anything.
No, that exactly was the idea. We said it has to be a white piece of paper approach, no compromises, no platform approach, just use the best available technology worldwide to do the most capable vehicle on Earth. It sounds a little bit ambitious, but actually I think when you drive it and when you see what the car can do, both on-road and off-road, then you understand what I mean. And you can only do this when you don't have too many restrictions and compromises to make and trade-offs when you begin. So yes, the best was just good enough for this car.
There's never been any question mark of the Range Rover's ability off-road, and the new model, if anything, is slightly improved. But where it did have something to prove was on-road. So let's just see how much improvement they've made there. First impressions after just a few miles are that this is just a total transformation. The Range Rover now on-road is a revelation. I've been travelling at speeds and cornering at levels that would merely have got me off-road on the old car because it couldn't have handled it. We'd have gone straight off the road and I'd have been back in a field. The old Range Rover used to lurch around bends like a drunk on a Saturday night. This one is rock solid. Well, definitely rock solid for a vehicle that weighs just over 2 tons. The longer I drive the Range Rover, the more I love this seat. This has got to be the best seat for driving I have ever been in, bar none. It's wonderfully comfortable. You sit up, you can see everything. This is the perfect seat to fit any bottom. On the motorway, the Range Rover is equally impressive. It's a very silent, refined cruiser. The only thing you get is a little bit of wind noise, which when you consider the size of the Range Rover is to be expected really. Whew, now that was really different. I think I've just defied the laws of physics. I've just come up the side of an RAF hangar, and you don't do that every day. I think what that's confirmed as I look across Scotland is that Range Rover is well and truly back. Back of king of all its surveys. Bye.